Good morning, everybody. Good morning, obviously, my time. I know a lot of you watch this. If you're watching it live, you're watching it from halfway around the world. So, good evening to you, if that's the case. Obviously, it's morning for me, and you know, I spent a little bit of time. If you jumped on any of the live streams during the week, this last week, we were looking at some different posts on LinkedIn, and one of them was talking about alcohol and coffee and other stimulants that people uh, tend to try to use to their advantage when it comes to keeping them awake or active or hopefully better is kind of the idea. So I gave myself a little challenge this morning. So there's no coffee, just water. So just to make sure that I'm not getting caught up in any dependencies on stimulants or anything like that. So no coffee this morning. I don't know if Mel shows up, if she'll give me a hard time or not, but we'll find out. Welcome, Ming. Good to see you. Currently in the middle of a hackathon. That's something I've never actually done. Probably because I don't think that I have the skill set for it. To be perfectly honest with you, I think that's a piece of imposter syndrome for myself. I know technically it's not necessarily a huge like marker as far as your skill level or anything, but I never really had the time to do it, and I don't know, it just never really interested me. I'd be interested in hearing people's opinions on hackathons and whether they like them or not. We've talked about doing them like as a team in a couple of different jobs that I've had, and just never really actually came to fruition. So, yeah, I've never really participated in one. So that's interesting. Being, it's really hard. I know nothing about Web3, crypto, and blockchain. Well, yeah, that might be a bit of a problem. I can see that. I'll be honest with you. My knowledge of Web3 and crypto is and blockchain specifically is pretty low. I have some basic understanding of the overall concepts and a basic idea of kind of how it's supposed to work. Um, the ideas of decentralization, things like that, but yeah, I've never built a crypto project. That would be something I'd be interested in building, either myself or leading it. If anybody has a crypto project they want developed, I know the company I work for would love to do that. So there you go. But why are you watching me in the middle of your hackathon? Don't you have to have like all your focused attention, trying to get stuff done? Isn't like a time frame or something like that? My understanding was hackathons had like a specific time frame, and you had to get, I don't know, like build a whole app or something like that. I think that's the thing that for me doesn't really work. Trying to go 24 hours or whatever it is and keep working like that. That's not my jam for sure. Okay. Yeah. Well, you guys are trying to learn. It probably, if you're going to do it for learning, you probably want to more observe, go in and like just hang out with other teams that maybe are more knowledgeable. But yeah, you never know. You never know what's going to happen with those things. It's kind of like meetups, right? I've done very few meetups in my life, uh, mostly again just because of time. I got into I got into this enterprise, this world industry. That's the word I'm looking for. I got into this industry in my 30s, so or late 20s into early 30s, and by that time we had kids and all kinds of things taking up our time already, and so I didn't really kind of get into the whole. Well, I didn't know about it first of all. That there were things like meetups, but then I didn't really get into it from the beginning and build a network um, that way. So even one of my coworkers, he's still under 30, and he likes going to those things and networking with people and stuff like that. And it's not that I don't like people, sort of. It's just that I just don't have time for that stuff. There's so many other things in my life. So I think it's cool that you can take advantage of that stuff, Ming. And while you can do it, because there's going to come a point in time where you probably won't be able to. So do it while you can and enjoy it and learn as much as you can as you're going through the process. So Ming says, I don't know why devs have such poor social skills. Um, it is interesting. I've kind of felt like more recently we've been getting a lot more well-rounded people in the dev world. But I do also wonder if that well-roundedness of the people coming in means they're maybe not as good at being developers. And maybe that's one of the reasons why we've got so many junior developers who have a hard time finding jobs, because they really aren't that great of developers, because they just bought into the idea that anybody can learn to code and this is a great opportunity to switch careers and things like that. And I think in many ways that is true. Um, but I do wonder sometimes how many people are in this market that probably aren't the best suited to be developers, because they're too well rounded, because they communicate too well. Maybe they're better at like project management or something like that. I don't know. It's an interesting statement that you've called that out, because I do wonder, especially in places like hackathons and things like that, people who are um, much more interested in being in the code all the time. Like that's they live and they breathe and they eat code. They're the ones that buy the T-shirts that say, like, you know, eat, sleep, sleep, code, or whatever. All those different types of things. Um, I do wonder, the a hackathon or something like that's going to be the thing that draws people like that, and they're probably just naturally less sociable because they're drawn to more of that type of interaction and time consuming um, hobby, right? So I think that's part of it, is where you go. Those places tend to be probably more inhabited by people who are less social. I know I've worked with a lot of developers over the years. Some of them have been very sociable. Some of them have been not so social, and it's kind of hit or miss, honestly, depending on where you're at, the type of job that you're doing. Um, I've worked with some developers who are very intelligent but also very social. I've worked with some developers who didn't seem that intelligent and were not social at all. So you're going to kind of run across a whole gamut of people as you're interacting with different developers, and we're all different, obviously. But it is, that stereotype I felt like was really starting to fall away over the last few years, of developers being kind of isolationists and antisocial and things like that. Um, but I think what you're really seeing is just an influx of people who want to be developers that maybe don't have the same level of skill set or the same ability to learn it, um, but they're much more well rounded socially. And those can actually be benefits depending on where you're going. So I'm not saying that they're bad developers if they can interact socially. What I am saying is they're going to probably participate in different things and be better for different parts of the job market. Um, so all of that to say, that's interesting that you that you have that experience here. Exactly. There are lots of companies that are looking for both good hard skills and soft skills, especially if they're companies that don't have a lot of devs, where your devs are going to probably have some client interfacing. A lot, especially the bigger companies, often don't have their developers interacting with the clients, or maybe just like one lead developer might interact with a client. They typically prefer, at least in the past, they've typically preferred to have a project manager or a BA, a business analyst, or somebody like that interact with the clients, because of the soft skill issue with developers. But I think just so many more small companies in this world, in this industry, that they need developers who can at least have some level of interaction with the clients. Even in the business the company that I work for, we do have a hierarchy, and we have certain people who are interacting much more with clients, but we try to give opportunities for developers to just be developers and not be interacted with the clients if possible, because we know it's not everybody's skill set, and so you need to kind of be able to work around that so you can help other people help you. You want the goal of management, in my opinion, is to find what people do best and to put them in the best situation to win. That's not to jump into a football analogy here. We're off the track right away. Very good, Ming. Thank you. Uh, not to jump into a football analogy, but it is football season, American football season, and my Chiefs are 6-0, so go Chiefs, which means they'll probably lose this week to the lowly Raiders. But one of the things about the Chiefs and their coach Andy Reid is he seems to always know how to put his players in the best position to win, how to put his players in the best, how to use his players most effectively, and that's really good management, right? Any good manager is going to figure out what people are good at and put them in those positions and let them exceed the expectations and excel. But they're also going to push them to grow in other areas like soft skills, right? So if we have a developer who wants to be a lead, we're going to push them to grow in areas that they need to, whether it's project management, whether it's soft skills and interactions with clients, things like that. We're going to slowly work them into that process and give them a taste of what it looks like. That's all part of management, and frankly, that's part of mentoring, is helping you kind of move from where you're at, maybe a little less social to a little bit more social. And again, you don't have to be a social butterfly. Everybody has different skill sets and different desires of what they want to do. But it is true what you're saying, meaning that a lot of companies are looking for that unicorn that has both great development skills and also good soft skills. Yeah, exactly. That's why startups. That's probably why I've been drawn to startups a lot. One, I don't really care for bureaucracy, or at least small companies, right? Startups are small companies. I don't like a lot of bureaucracy and dealing with office politics. Um, and I feel like the skill sets that I have can make more of an impact, not just from a development, but even from an social interaction standpoint. So that's always been uh, my preference personally. Let's see. You're fine, me. I'm just trying to keep up with you with your comments while I'm monologuing. There's that. Yeah, that's interesting that they gave you that feedback though from your interview. What are you looking for in a dev role? Um, that's interesting. They wanted soft and hard skills, which, I mean, again, everybody would love that. The question is, can a company handle people with one or the other? Obviously, from a dev job, you're going to probably look, if you're going to you're going to err on the side of skills, dev skills rather than soft skills. But there you go. Anyway, now that we're 15 minutes in, welcome. Welcome to the Dev Mentor Dave live stream on Saturday morning. If you noticed, the thumbnail and the title of the live stream this morning is different. I actually went back and also changed the thumbnail and the title for last week's live stream. As we're jumping back into trying to create more content, I wanted to kind of turn the focus partially away from the Deep Pockets project. Not that we're getting away from that. In fact, we'll look at it here in just a few minutes. Um, O'Neill sneakily listening. Welcome, O'Neill. I thought you weren't going to be here. He posted on Discord uh, earlier today saying that he wasn't going to be here. Which, by the way, if you're watching live, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. We're trying to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We're going to be really, really close. I may do a plea video that we can share or something like that and put up on the front. I don't know. I'm trying to build some content, so we're doing a new live stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And the Saturday live stream, I'm kind of changing around a little bit. I want it to be a little bit more appealing to people who may not be a part of the Deep Pockets project. So we will be looking at the Deep Pockets project. We will be, that's why I'm sneaking. Nice. We will be looking at the Deep Pockets project. We just won't spend as much time on it. We spent a lot of time this year talking about working on projects, talking about the project, talking about different aspects around the project setup and design and things like that. So that is now running. I've got a little bit of runway with tickets, which we'll look at here in a minute. But I do want I want the Saturday live stream to be a little bit more broad and just make it something that might be more helpful for more people. So we will still start off with, probably too long of a greeting section like we're doing today. We'll get into some of the Deep Pocket stuff and project stuff. And then each week I'm going to have a topic that I'm going to talk about. And so we'll talk about that. That's why the thumbnail's different and the title's different. So from now on, we're going to call this the Saturday live stream until somebody else gives me a much better name, since it's not just not just focused on the Deep Pockets project anymore. I will still include these in the Deep Pockets playlist, but I'm also creating another playlist for the Saturday live stream. Again, feel free to offer any pithy ideas for live stream name, and I'll try to think of some too that we can make this a little bit better. We'll go back and re-edit the titles. So we'll get to that topic here in just a few minutes after we do take a look at the Deep Pockets project. And then, of course, at the end, if there's time and I haven't talked too much, then obviously we'll open things up for questions and answers, anything that you guys have. Since Ming was the only one on here, I went ahead and answered all of his questions. So there we go. Yeah, there you go. I should do a live stream on how to be more social. Just change your whole personality. That's what you need to do. So I don't know that's probably not going to be a great. I don't know if I have any tips on that, to be honest with you. All right. So again, welcome. If you're watching live, say hello. Jump into the chat. If you have any questions, certainly feel free to ask them. If you do ask a question specifically to me in the chat, make sure you do @DevMentorDave at the beginning of it. It usually gives me a little red box. It just makes it easier to see that you're trying to talk to me. I do try to read through it as we go, though, and try to keep up. But if we get a lot of people in here, a lot for us is like 8. So if we get a lot of people in here talking, sometimes it's harder to keep up with the whole conversation. So, but I try to, because really that's the whole point. I don't really just want to get on here and talk. I want to interact with you guys. So feel free to jump in and participate. Again, hit the like button if you find this content helpful, and if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. If you're not in the Dev Mentor Dave Discord channels, join the Discord server and take part of interacting with others who need help or want to help you in your journey as a junior developer, or even as a mid-level senior developer. Wherever you're at, we're here for everybody. But really, most of it's designed for junior devs. So feel free to jump in, share your comments and your ideas as we go along the way. Now, I do want to jump into the Deep Pockets project real quick. Just as a reminder, I will probably pull things out of the talk every Saturday for shorts, or maybe even pull it out as its own video. So if you see that, please don't get angry if you see duplicate content. Not everybody's going to click on a 2-hour live stream to rewatch it. So I want to try to make some of the important things a little bit more available to people in those ways. I haven't completely done that yet. I'm still working out some of the bugs in my schedule to try to figure out how best to do these things without without taking up too much time. So just a reminder on that. Okay, so let's take a look at the Deep Pockets project here. I'm going to switch screens. This is where we're currently at, if I remember correctly. And one thing I will say is we have a number of tickets, which we'll see here in a minute. O'Neill's actually been doing a lot of work lately. I don't want to stop him from doing work, but that means other people have to actually grab tickets. So if you want to participate in the Deep Pockets project, please, if you don't have access to it, please let me know in the Discord server or in a comment on the video or somewhere else, right? So hit me up. Discord's probably the best place. Hit me up on Discord. Let me know that you want to be a part of the project, and I'll try to make sure I get you added to it, to both the GitHub account and also the GitHub repo, and also the project board as well. So I think O'Neill, you should have access to the board now. I forgot about it last week, but I did add you, I believe, this week. So you should be able to move tickets around and assign yourself to them if you would like. Let me know if you have any issues there. But this is where we're at with the project. Again, none of these things work. We're not going anywhere. This opens up on the listing budget page. So let me go over to the designs. So this is the budget list page. Had a few updates to that. And again, these updates are happening slowly as I have time, but hopefully we don't have people necessarily burning through all the tickets. So thankfully, I think we're okay from that standpoint. But the more people we do get involved, the more I'll need to get some stuff rolling here. You will notice that some of the tickets are more back end heavy right now, because we need to start adding in the functionality of the back end to be able to do things like get the list. We're gonna eventually have a search back end that we'll need to do, and a duplicate button where we'll want to duplicate an existing budget, things like that. So new budget, we'll get to that here in a minute. That actually hasn't been laid out, which I need to. So I'm doing the design. Again, if anybody wants to throw their design chops in here, we are using the MUI, the Material UI Figma file and components, because that's what we're using for the project. So if you have any Figma experience and you'd like to help out with knocking out some of these screens, let me know, and I can get you some information of what we would want on the screens and things like that. Otherwise, you'll have to put up with my very limited design skills. So it is what it is. Welcome, Ollie. Good to have you. Good to see you. Thanks for jumping on the chat. All right. So again, this is where we're at. Thanks to O'Neill. He put a lot of this stuff in here recently for last week, basically. So really, we still need to get the actual content area filled out. We have some tickets in for that, and I think we might have some pull requests in. So let's jump over to the repo. Take a look at the pull requests here. Now these are ordered by most recent. Can I resort them? Oldest. There we go. Okay. So we've got them sorted by oldest, because I want to pull in the original code first, or the oldest code first if I can, if it makes sense to do that. Okay. So we have, let's see, created budget list layout. Let's take a look at the code. Okay, so import budget list page, components, budget list page. So we've got a React component, and let's see here. We've got budget list page. So yeah, that should be fine. I think that's fine. Yes, I think that's fine. Okay, so what we're doing here, let's take a look at this. We've got a new component which we're pulling into our app.jsx file, and we're telling it this is the ID of the div that we're going to place this in. So we want to replace this with our actual component. That looks good to me. All right, then we've got our actual component here. Imports, that all looks good. One thing I will say is, unless you need this, you have like a to-do or something like that, don't leave any commented code in your pull requests. If you change something, one of the great things about GitHub or Git is that if you change something, we have it in the history. So like if you don't need to comment out code and get rid of it, and you don't need to comment out code and push it, um, because you can just delete it. It'll still be in the old history, right? So we can always go back and find the code that you deleted, and GitHub gives you good tools to be able to do that as well. So this was probably just testing, would be my guess, more than likely. But I would say don't leave this in here. If you have a chance to do it while we're on the live stream, go ahead and get rid of it. All right, so we're returning a card with a box. I think you could use a card or paper. Card is fine with me though. And then we've got a box with some padding, typography, budgets. Let's look at our design. Budgets. All right. And this list of all budgets. And then we've got just a placeholder for budget search and a placeholder for budget list. I actually really like this because this tells me, hey, there's going to be something coming, but it's not developed. Like we don't have a component for budget search yet. We don't have a component for budget list. So I think that's a really good way of laying that out and showing us the future without being cumbersome. So very nice. I like that. All right, down here we're adding the budget list page. Now this is where I may not. Oh, you got rid of it. I see what happened. Okay, so you got rid of app and you put it in the budget list page because you created a new file. Got it. All right. Sometimes it takes me a second when I'm reading the code. All right, so everything looks good to me. So let's actually pull this down. Oh, come on, go back. Can I copy this? I think I can. All right, let's pull this thing down and see. Make this a little bigger so you guys can see. I always do get pull just because I'm low CD. All right, so we should have those files in here. So we've got new budget list page component. So that's in here. And our new index.blade.php update here with the budget list page. Very good. All right, I think that's pretty much everything. We have the change in app.jsx here. Good. All right, let's take a look. Moment of truth. Boom, here we go. Budgets. So, excellent. This looks good. This looks like we've filled it out here. The one thing that I will say, though, is it would be nice if this filled the whole screen. But I don't know. Let me go back to the code and see what we have here. Card. Okay, so we do have a max width, so I would not set a max width on this. I would let it fill up the whole width, because this is a pretty normal screen size. In fact, yeah, so that's a standard screen size. I would rather have this go the full width based on the design. So, yeah. And actually, I don't think you need to set the width. Let's just find out. So if I just get rid of this. Yeah, there it goes. So we just don't need a max width on it. So I would just remove that. And here we go. I will do it for you because I'm a nice guy. Git commit. And I'm the client, so I'm always right. So get pushed. There we go. So let's see. All those changes should be up. Let's go back and refresh this page. Card should be fine. Everything looks good. We might could add a little bit more margin over here, but I think that's fine. It's actually more. It's pretty accurate there. But everything else looks great. I like it. Let's do this. Let's get it approved. Review changes, approve, and submit. It's mergeable. So we're going to merge this bad boy. Confirm merge. Boom. All right. So that is now in main. So if I go to main on my project, so let's do git checkout main. Oops. And do a pull. All those changes should be in there. And I should see the exact same thing. Very good. That works. All right. Let's take a look at the next one. O'Neill's just knocking stuff out of the park. Okay, so we've got the base app layout is done. So we'll move that over here, I think. That's done. Budget list, menu. The menu one is done. All right. And it looks like this was pulled in, if I'm not mistaken. So let's take a look at the next pull request. Let's see, 22. Budget list search component, and shifted the budget list title 8 pixels to the right. 8 pixels to the right. Yeah, I hate that you have to feel like you do that so specifically. That's one of the things that I dislike about development is a lot of times clients and even people in charge of projects are really specific about design matching perfectly. I'm less designed about matching perfectly and more about that it looks good. So if you needed to do that to make it look good, great. Otherwise, I'm less concerned about that. But we'll take a look at it here in just a minute. All right, so we've got our budget list page. This is imported, so let's do this. Let's pull this down. Man, one of these days I'm going to learn how to type, and then I'll really be dangerous, right? All right, get check out. Git pull. Git merge. I just pulled down main, so we'll merge main in. Uh-oh, we got a conflict. Budget list page.jsx. Okay, let's take a look at that. Yes, we do, because we got rid of our max width. But you'll notice the padding is different on the box. Do we want to keep the ML1? Let's keep the ML1 for now. And we'll accept the incoming change. And we'll add that ML1. All right, so git commit, fixing merge conflicts. Hit push. All right, let's see if that updates this guy. There we go. Now we have a lot fewer changes that we need to check into. So anytime, and again, typically when you're doing this, it's going to be a little bit faster. You'll be notified when a PR goes into main, so you'll have the chance to do this typically. So you always want to try to, if you have the chance, merge main back into or develop or whatever it is, whatever branch that you're merging out of or that you're branching off of. You typically want to merge that back into your branch so that you get rid of any duplicate code. Because a lot of times when you're doing multiple things, like O'Neill did here, you've got some more code that needs to be moved from what you did earlier into what you're working on now. And so you end up with some duplicate stuff in your PRs. So that just makes it easier for the person reviewing the PR to know what was actually changed in this specific pull request. So let's see. What do you name your branch when you create the feature? Typically, this is one of the things I don't like about GitHub, or at least maybe something I need to figure out. Typically, I would give it a number So like this here, 0022, um, that really is corresponding to the PR, which is not really. You would usually want to use like the ticket number. So the way that we do it at the company that I work for now, I've done it lots of different ways, but we put our first name and then dash the ticket number and then a brief explanation, like 3 or 4 words of what you did, what you were working on. That's usually the most helpful. What you want is something to direct the person to what work was requested and what the PR is about. Basically, you want them to have an idea going in to the pull request what it is that you were trying to accomplish, right? So this is pretty good. It says create budget list search components, right? So what I'm going to be looking for are the search components listed, in the design. I want to make sure that these things are here and available. Um, so that's what I'm going to be looking for, and he tells me right here that's basically what he added, right? So what we see here is we've got an addition of margin, and we're pulling in this new component, this budget list search component, into our budget list page. And then we've got our component is now visible, and he's removed the old placeholder. All right, and then here's our new component. We've got all of our imports. Current year, get full year. Okay. Um, did I give a specific about the year? I didn't give specifics about anything. Ha! I didn't even look at that. Sorry, O'Neill. There's no information about this. He just did it straight off of the design, which is good. Good job. So we're going to keep that for now. We might change that later because clients like to change things. So we're going to keep that for now. All right, we've got an alert that pops up on click handling because we don't really have any back end search functionality yet. So that's good. I really like something like this. I would typically prefer to just use a console log, mostly because alerts annoy me more than anything. They just because they pop up and you have to get rid of them, things like that. Whereas if you just log it to the console, you can always open it up and see and make sure that it's working. A lot of times you're developing with the console open anyway. So what I would do here is to do something like moving forward. Let's use console.log instead of alerts. And again, that way we can leave that in there for a period of time and it doesn't annoy other developers on the project, constantly having to get rid of this alert every time they accidentally click the button or something like that. So this would be something that I wouldn't necessarily say has to be changed. I would maybe encourage it in a future ticket to just, hey, get rid of that. But I wouldn't stop the PR simply because of something like this. All right. So here's our component. We've got a box and another box inside of a box. Box component equals form. I have not seen this before. That's interesting. I might have to look that up and see how that works. Box component equals form. I typically would just use a form component, which we'll need to figure out. One of the things I haven't decided on is how we're going to handle form inputs and things like that. But that's interesting. Target to enter text clicked. Yeah, so we'll have a different way of handling forms in the future. There are multiple ways of doing that. There are plugins that you can use for it, which I'm probably going to lean towards, but we'll take a look at it. Okay, we got a text field and another text field. Nothing on here standing out. Now, this is the thing about getting old, is you start seeing stuff in code that you've not seen before. 25CH. What is CH? width of the character 0 or of the font. Huh. Interesting. I've never seen anybody use that before. I'm not necessarily against it, but I don't know that it's standard either, unless it's something that's just new and I've not been kept up to date. So we've got the years. Um, text field select years. Is there another? There might be another. Let's take a look at the docs. We're spending lots of time on this. Okay. Components. Select. There is actually a select component. I would prefer to use that as opposed to a form field. Let's see. Hang on. Where are we at? Text field. So let's do that. So we're kicking this one back, O'Neill. If you're still on, I don't know if you're still on or not. Yeah, I would prefer to use the actual select. You know, you want to use the tools that are designed for what you're building as much as possible, because again, as somebody looking at this code, if I'm just glancing through this, I see two text boxes. I don't see a text box and a select. Now, this may be functioning like that, which we'll pull it down and take a look at it here in a second. We'll already pull it down, but so we've got a button, outline contained. All right, which I believe is correct. All right, so let's just look at it real fast. Okay, so we do have the activity of a dropdown, right? So this isn't necessarily wrong. And it may actually be, I don't know. Let's just take a look at the design. It may be what is actually here. Nope, it's a select. Ha ha! Ha ha ha! Vindication. Oops, that didn't work. All right. Come on. All right, so up here, you can tell what type of element it is, and it is a select element. So anyway, there you go. So yeah, if you would change that to a select element, I would appreciate that. We'll push back on that one just so that we can reject a PR. But this stuff looks fine to me. I think yeah, we got a key value, very good, and all that looks good. And then these buttons are correct. And what were you doing? It's not a huge deal on the change thing. Handle click. Where's the handle click? Oh, it's on these. Okay. So we'll probably have two different methods there eventually, but this will at least show us that it's working, which it does. Duplicate clicked. New budget clicked. Very good. All right. And again, I would just move that to, since you have to make an update anyway, I would move that over to the console. So when we open that up, we'll just see that over here filled out. Oh, what do we have here? Nav menu. Oh, I didn't catch that. Our nav menu doesn't have unique keys. Let's take a look at that real fast. Nav menu. Here's our menu items. List items. So these should each have a key. If you want to fix that too, O'Neill, go ahead. Otherwise, we're gonna have tech debt. Okay, so that all is looking good, but we're gonna push back on that one just because we want to do a couple different changes. Please update based on comments. Request changes. Boom. Reviewed. All right, let's take a look at the last pull request here. Oh, he already did it. Well done. Well done. There we go. See? He's on top of it. Good job, O'Neill. Good job. Let's see. Look at our files changed. Again, this has a bunch of stuff that we've already merged in and probably, yeah, he's got some other stuff from the other PR too. So I don't want to merge. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're doing a bug fix, um, fix it off of the main branch. So don't branch off of work that you're currently working on. So I'm not going to accept this PR because even if we merge main in here, we're still going to have the budget list search stuff, and I can't merge it in yet until that budget list search stuff is done. Um, but we can come back here and see that he's added the key item. So I can. What I'm going to do is leave a comment saying that I'll approve this once the other one is done, once 22 is done. All right, so let's come back to the conversation. I'm going to leave a comment here. Hello, 22. After number 22, bloop, is complete. And again, I would let's leave some notes next time. Next time. Wow. um, fix bugs off of main. All right, and again, the reason for that is that way you're not pulling in code that that is parent code that needs to be merged before your bug fix. So if at all possible, do a bug fix off of main so that it doesn't have any extra cruft in it, and we can just push it into the project once it's been reviewed. Okay, so those are 2 pull requests. Pushed one back. We're waiting on another one before we can push it in. If you want to be a part of the project, again, please make sure that you message me in the Discord server and that you check and make sure you have access to it. And then just go in. Oh, I shouldn't have transitioned so fast. Just go into the project and add yourself. So you should be able to. I think everyone should be able to edit, add an assignee, and add yourself to the assignments. So for example, on this one, we'll add O'Neill, right? So he's on there. And I don't know if, who's this? Is this Ming? I think that's Ming. Yeah, Ming, if you're still watching. If you think you're going to be able to get to this, go ahead and go for it. If not, let us know and we'll let somebody else grab it. Or just unassign yourself from it if you can. If you can't, let me know. But all of these tickets should be ready. These tickets have to do... no problem, man. These tickets have to do with some more of the functionality, especially these guys, these back-end ones. So we want to be able to... What we're trying to get to is to be able to populate this list. All right, so we want to be able to have the back-end functionality to return via an API accessing this list. And I'm going to leave it. I still need to do some of the tickets for the front end, getting that information from the back end. But we want to do that via the API. So we're going to just take a look at those tickets. If you have questions about tickets, jump into the Discord server and ask your questions there. And then I will answer the questions in the Discord server, and I'll also update the tickets to be more clear. So if you have questions, if you're looking at a ticket and you want more information, feel like there's not enough information there, or need clarity on something, please let me know, and I will make sure to do that. So, okay. I think that's everything for the Deep Pockets project. Again, there's tickets here in the backlog, in the ready column, for you to grab. If you are doing something, assign yourself to it and move it over to the in progress. If you don't have the ability to do that, let me know. You should, if you've been added correctly, you should be able to do that. So if you're not able to, let me know, and I'll make sure you have access to that as well. All right. I think I just tried to show you something again without giving you... Here. Assign yourself. And then move it. All right. There we go. I keep doing that. I apologize. Okay. So that's it for the Deep Pockets project update. Good job, O'Neill. Just a couple things on those PRs that we can get fixed up, and that we'll get those merged in next Saturday when we jump into this. Okay, so let's talk about the title of the live stream. So the live stream title this morning was "Attack of the Clones," and I don't know if you saw the thumbnail. Hopefully, it was somewhat humorous. um, and I did pick that title on purpose. I had a comment a few weeks ago, maybe even a couple months ago, on one of my videos where someone was calling me out because I wear a lot of like Star Wars T-shirts and things like that. So I purposefully wore a coding T-shirt instead of a Star Wars T-shirt today, just to make that person happy. Not really. I actually looked for one of my Star Wars T-shirts, but I didn't. I'd already worn them this week. So anyway, they were mocking me for being a grown adult and still wearing T-shirts that have to do with Star Wars. Which, hey, I know lots of developers who wear that stuff, so I'm not really worried about it. But I thought we'd lean into that Star Wars genre just a little bit this morning using the title from episode 2, right? I think episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Um, and it fits really well with what I want to talk about this morning when it comes to projects that you're working on. Now, you guys know that I'm a huge proponent of developing projects over just doing tutorials. Obviously, tutorials help you kind of get started with some concepts, but at the end of the day, you're going to progress your career the most by using real projects and developing real projects to that meet real needs, right? That because that's what you're going to do in the job moving forward. So one of the things that I see though a lot of times, especially on LinkedIn, again, I'm on LinkedIn more than I am any other social media. But one of the things that I've seen over the years is a lot of developers showing off their clone projects. Now, these are projects that are cloning things like Netflix or Twitter or other high profile websites or web applications. Um, and I'll be honest, from what I've seen, they tend to do a pretty good job. They look pretty nice. But there are some downfalls to spending time on a clone project. And I want to encourage you first, just off the bat, I would say don't do that. Don't spend your time, in my opinion, don't spend your time working on a clone project. Is it the worst thing in the world to work on? No. I think tutorials are probably the worst thing in the world to work on. Clone projects would be like just above tutorials, in my opinion. And I want to kind of walk through kind of 3 main reasons why I feel like clone projects are not really a benefit. They can be helpful in boosting your confidence. They can be helpful in making you feel like you can do the job. And I will share a couple ways that I think they can be beneficial, but I don't think they're the best option. And the first reason why I don't think they're the best option is because they're not unique. And you're probably thinking, well, duh. I mean, that's the whole point of a clone project, is that it's not unique. It's not something that you've just created on your own. You've literally copied something. That's what the word clone means, right? You've literally copied something that already exists. But for me, that's part of the problem. See, as a junior developer, especially as a junior developer, you need to stand out from other people in the job market. And when people are posting these clone projects, they're doing so, from what I've seen, they're doing so really less to get feedback and more to get their recognition, right? They're trying to show people what they can do. They're trying to say, hey, look at what I can put together. I can put something together that looks just as good as Netflix or Facebook or Twitter or whatever else, right? Instagram, it seems like they're all like movie or social media based. I don't know, but that may be another part of the problem too, right? It's all just popular stuff. Like I never see somebody cloning um, Figma. You just don't see people cloning tools as much as you see them cloning like entertainment things like that. But anyways, I digress. It it's not unique, and if you're putting it up there as a profile piece, as showing what you can do, it doesn't really tell me as an employee, as an employer, as an interviewer. That doesn't necessarily tell me what you can do, because it's not unique. It's not something that you necessarily built from scratch. Now you may actually be building it from scratch. In fact, there are other YouTube channels where they go and they look at um, cool things on websites, and then they teach you how to do that. And I don't know if they dug into the code or if they're just figuring it out for themselves. I think some of them at least give the appearance that they're figuring it out for themselves, so that to show you how to kind of deconstruct something and put it together. But and that's better. But I don't know how much of the code base you copied. When you create a clone project, I can't tell without really digging into the code whether this is something that you built from scratch or whether a lot of it is stuff that you pulled out of the website that you're cloning. It's just the lack of uniqueness makes it difficult to judge your actual skill set when developing it. Now, one of the things I do encourage you to do is use things like templates and component libraries and things like that to make it easier, and because that's what we use a lot of times in our projects. So I'm not saying that you can't go an easy route from a development standpoint on your projects, but when you're cloning something, it's just not unique. People have seen it before, and especially if you do a good job of copying it, there's no way to really know how much of that, without spending a lot of time, how much of that is actually your work, and how much of that is you copying layout and padding. Just a lot of CSS stuff can easily be copied instead of figured out. And I think when I look at those clones, it's just meaningless to me. It doesn't tell me anything about that developer skill set. Now, did they spend a lot of time working on something? Absolutely. Does it look good? Yes. And I'm not saying that it's completely pointless. Tutorials are not completely pointless, but they're like the lowest rung on the ladder when it comes to building your career and building your skill set. I think clones are kind of just the next one up from that, maybe the next couple up from that. Because they're not unique. You haven't really thought through a real problem. You've just copied somebody else's work, and they may not have walked you through it, but it's still not a very good indicator of what your skill sets are when it comes to the real world job. So it's just not unique. And when you're building stuff for showing people, showing your skill sets, a clone project it's not going to do that for you. So it just doesn't have a lot of value, right? So a clone project is not unique. That's reason number one. Reason number two is that clone projects are deceptive. They're mostly deceptive for the developer. People who are evaluating them, they're not really deceived, right? We know that it's a clone project. You usually say, hey, look at my clone of Netflix, or look at my clone of Twitter, or whatever it is. Like, it's pretty obvious from the beginning that you've cloned something, right? But what I mean by it's deceptive is that it's deceiving you as a developer into thinking that you're further along than you probably are. Again, a lot of that is based on the fact that you've maybe copied some CSS. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you figured it all out on your own. That's great. But you're still copying somebody else, right? So it gives you a false sense of your knowledge. It gives you a false sense of where you're really at in knowing how to build an application, because you have every opportunity to kind of see how somebody else did it. You're not trying to figure it out from scratch. You're not taking a problem and creating a solution. And so a person who focuses on a lot of clone projects, they're going to feel like they're learning a lot. They're going to feel like they know a lot because they're able to produce something that looks really good. But at the end of the day, they're not really struggling as much. They're not really learning as much. They're not having to go research as many things. Again, because it's already there for them. They can pull up dev tools and they can get information about the CSS or the some JavaScript or things like that, depending on what's minified, right? But they can get information that they would normally have to go figure out. They'd have to write code to try it. They'd have to go on Stack Overflow or ChatGPT and ask questions and things like that to try to get help and build their knowledge. Whereas the knowledge that you're getting from building a clone project is very limited. So you think that you're learning a lot, but you're deceived in how much knowledge you're actually gaining when you do a clone project. It also gives you a false sense of accomplishment. When you build a clone app, it feels good, right? It looks like you actually accomplished something. It looks like you know what you're doing. But the reality is it's not really something that you did. It's something that you copied. It's a clone. And so it can give you, if you're not careful, it can give you this false sense of accomplishment that you've done something with your skill set that just isn't unique. You know, it's not really your skill set building. It's you copying what somebody else has already done. And again, I'm not saying it has no value at all. I'm just saying at the end of the day, it's very deceptive for you as a developer when it comes to your knowledge, when it comes to your sense of accomplishment. And I think that's part of the reason why I feel like we need to talk about this, because devs are putting that out there. I did just a quick search on LinkedIn just for fun. And here, we'll just do it live for fun here. Let's see if it comes up. I did it on my personal account, but we'll do it on this one. Okay. Let's do what did I search for? A Netflix clone project. All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, some jobs, 7, 8, 9, 10, and pages and pages and pages of clone project posts. There's another one. You know, it's just, it doesn't move my meter. You know, everybody's doing it, obviously. And it just doesn't tell me anything about you as a developer. You know, it just doesn't help me want to hire you. And that sounds mean, but all of these people, I scrolled through them pretty quickly, but if you saw, you know, I'm excited to share this. I'm, you know, look what we've done, you know, that's a lot of a sense of accomplishment that's being posted out there on LinkedIn that I think is deceptive. And it's, again, it's not deceptive towards me because I can see that, sure, it's a clone. That's great. It's deceptive for the people who are working on it. It's deceptive for the people who are posting it and putting it up there. Now, if you want to build it and not post it, maybe that's better. I don't know, because you understand that it's just practice. But there's just so many people going on there putting these clone projects up, and they're excited about what they've accomplished. And I think there's a lot of deception for themselves in that accomplishment because it's a clone project. And again, we kind of talked about this already, but it's also deceptive because it's a false perception of your skill set, not only of your knowledge, but of your skills. Like, did you really use all the skills that you could in developing this clone, or how much of it did you copy? How much of it did you figure out? How much of it did you how much of it did you write code and rewrite code and rewrite code to get to where you had something that looked like what you wanted it to look like? I would say if you're gonna do a clone project, don't clone it perfectly. Like, try to make some enhancements. Try to, think about the UI. Think about something that maybe you don't like about Netflix, and make a change, and show that you're not just copying work, but maybe you started with a clone, but you added some enhancements. You made it better. You made it do things that Netflix doesn't do. You made it easier to interact with. Find something to enhance it. That will make it unique. If you're just copying what's already there, again, you can go back and you do your own search in LinkedIn, right? And just see all there. It's just all, hey, look, this looks the same. It works the same, right? Do something different with it. Sure, you can start with the base design and layout and stuff like that, but change something. Make it yours. Don't make it just a clone, but do something to it that shows me that you put thought, not just effort, but you put thought into this project, that you made it your own, that you wanted to improve on something. Now, it may not be an improvement to other people, but it's something that you thought of, that you wanted to improve on this clone project, and you changed it and you made it better. That to me is much more valuable. And I would want to see in that post, I want to see clone project, or Netflix clone project, Netflix, something like Netflix clone enhanced, or something like that. Something to catch my eye that says this is more than just a clone of what we see when we go to Netflix. So if you're not doing something like that, then you're just kind of deceiving yourself into thinking that you're progressing in your skills more than you are. Now, any practice is going to help you progress your skills. Okay, I'm not saying there's no value to it, but if you are not forcing yourself to think about things and solve problems, then you're not really progressing your skills. You're just practicing the ones that you already have. So if you're going to do a clone project, which I don't think that you should, but if you're going to do a clone project, enhance it. Do something different with it. Solve a problem that you think that cloned website or application has, and make it better. Because otherwise, I feel like it's just deceiving you on your skill set and your knowledge and your accomplishment at the end of the day. So clone projects are not unique. Clone projects are not unique. Clone projects are deceptive, and clone projects are really incomplete. Now, I have seen a couple of clone projects that go further, but the vast majority of clone projects are front end only. They are HTML, CSS, JavaScript, probably a JavaScript framework of some sort. Very rarely do I see, and again, I don't look at them that often, so maybe it's getting better. I don't know, but very often what I see is all front end work. It's all CSS, HTML, JavaScript, and there's no real thought or time given to developing anything from the back end. And the reality is it's kind of hard to break down what the back end should look like. If you've been doing it for a while, you can make a pretty good guess based off of the front end. And I think that most junior developers, if they're at a point where they're cloning a project, they should have some back end knowledge and be able to put together something like that. So I did see one recently that had a Firebase back end setup, and that's one way to do it. I still would not necessarily recommend that either, because again, there's so much like click and create involved in that it's not as much coding. The idea of putting the back end in is that you're not just dealing with front end work. You're showing that you have skills that are more full stack. They're They're not just front end. Again, you want to show that you have the ability to learn things that other people are not learning. You want to set yourself apart. You want to be unique in the job market. And if you are going to do something like a clone project or any other project, build a backend for it. Build a backend, explain the backend that you built in your post if you're going to post it on LinkedIn or something like that. Do it in something more than just a quick setup tool like Firebase. Like, actually set up a web server and have a database on it, and use something like Laravel framework to write the backend in PHP. Write real APIs that are going to accept this data and do something with it, and push data back out when there's a request, and like actually do the full project. And that's another problem with most of these clone projects, is that they're really incomplete. They're only half of the project, maybe 2/3 of the project, because I doubt you're going to be as complicated as Netflix is in their back end, because you're not going to deal with a lot of automated stuff that they have built out. But for me, as an interviewer, as an employer, I want to see somebody who can break down the clone and show me some back end chops. Show me that you can think through, how is this data stored? How do you get the information that's in all of these, movie boxes? Where does that come from? How does that get saved? What are you doing with it when you're making these API calls? Even just simple CRUD, create, read, update, delete. Is there, obviously there's no deleting on a Netflix clone because you're only looking at the front end. Build a back end. Is there a way for you to add movies to your Netflix clone? Not just via upload, a CSV or something like that, but like build a UI for the back end and show, how you're adding these things, adding descriptions and things like that. Like build something real. At the end of the day is what I'm saying. Don't build a clone. You can build a real project that's based off of Netflix or that's based off of Twitter or something like that, but build a real project. Don't just build a front end clone that looks exactly like what is out there. If there's a back end, typically it's very simple. And if you want to set yourself apart and you still want to use a clone style, build a real back end and show people that you've got more problem solving skills than just design chops. Because at the end of the day, for me, when I look at a clone project, I think that person is a designer, not a developer. And that may seem unfair, but really all you're doing is you're just copying a design with your code. And maybe, you're throwing in some framework, front JavaScript framework that's handling some cool reactivity and things like that, but it just doesn't move the meter for me as an interviewer, as an employer, as a mentor. It just doesn't move my meter because it's incomplete. At the end of the day, you really didn't solve any problems if you just build a front end clone of an existing website or application. You're not really problem solving, and really that's the job of a developer, is problem solving. And you need to be practicing with projects that are giving you that opportunity to solve problems. So anyway, there's my anti-clone rant. So next time you're on LinkedIn and you see somebody posting a clone, don't be mean. But hopefully these ideas will come back to you. And if you're working on a clone project, stop it. No, I'm not saying that. If you're working on a clone project, just add something to it, enhance it, make it bigger, make it better, make it do things that the clone projects everybody else are doing don't do. Make it a real project. All right, let me jump down to the comments here. I've got Ming's blowing me up on a bunch of stuff that I've been ignoring because I wanted to get through my monologue here. All right, let's see. let's see, YouTuber influencer who promotes that, but I actually learned some things from about the MERN stack from. Yeah, again, you can absolutely learn new stuff, and in fact, I've learned some new things from YouTubers who do that as well. Um, so I'm not saying that you can't learn. Uh, I would rather learn through YouTube of somebody else doing it than me just trying to do it on myself. I want to learn the concepts and then move those concepts to a real project. If that makes sense. Yeah, the features for clones are not that hard. Most of the features use CRUD and some extra libraries for it. Exactly. Even if they have a backend, it's usually very limited. Um, and it's a simple project. That doesn't mean it's easy, and that doesn't mean that it doesn't take weeks to build. It may very well take a long time to build, but that doesn't mean the project itself is complicated. Um, and again, we don't necessarily have to have complicated process projects, but you want to push yourself to learn something new, and complicated things, difficult things will push you and will make you a better developer long term. So, yes, again, tutorials are all thought out for you. That's part of the problem of tutorials is you're just that's the lower level of copy, right? You're not only just copying a design, but you're copying the actions and the code of somebody else. So, that's why tutorials are the lowest rung and clones are the second second lowest rung. Uh, he's got a YouTube influencer that has clone projects, but you can access the code for paying for it. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that's not right. Um, Especially as somebody who, I would love to do more YouTube stuff full time, but that costs money, and I don't make any money on YouTube. So, there's if you have an opportunity for something like that, if you have a market for that, I don't know that that's necessarily wrong or even unethical. I think it's it's not necessarily leading people down the best path, in my opinion. I don't. Again, I don't. I wouldn't call it unethical or wrong. I just think it's not the best concept. But if it's helping people, great. And if you can get somebody to pay for it, great. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Um, Yeah. Yeah, you definitely, and again, that's what sets you apart, right? If you are copy pasting clone projects as your projects that you're putting up for future employers, bleh, future employers, then you're not going to get the interviews. Okay? I'm just being honest with you. You're not going to get the interviews if your portfolio is full of clone projects. If your portfolio is full of code that you've copy pasted from some YouTuber tutorial or something like that, you're not going to get the interviews. It may look really great, it may be snazzy, but a good a good lead developer looking at your profile is going to skip over it because it's not going to mean anything to them. If you can develop your own thing from scratch, even if you're using templates, even if you're using libraries, that's fine. But show me that you thought through something and that you fixed problems, because that's the type of dev that I'm looking for. Let's see. When I was at 100 Devs, we were taught to build everything from scratch because that would definitely teach you how things work from the ground up. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know what this 100 Devs thing is, but they seem to be pointing you in the right direction, Ming. Build everything from scratch. Now, I will say that at some point in your learning process, it's good to learn how to use tools that are out there, right? So, for example, I'm not a huge proponent of junior developers using AI early on in their development and learning journey. But eventually you do need to learn how to use AI because your future fellow employees are going to be using AI, and you're going to need to be able to use the tools that are available to the best of your ability. So I'm not saying don't ever use frameworks or don't ever use AI. Don't ever use these tools that are available uh, when you're starting out. I would just say limit it a lot, because at the end of the day, you want to know why those tools are helpful. You want to know why those things are beneficial to making you a better developer, making you a faster developer, um, and you want to know when those tools don't fit the problem. Um, you want to know how to find a better solution, even than a framework. I read an article recently about, I think it was Netflix, had some page that they changed from using, I think they use React. They changed from using React to just plain JavaScript because React was just, it was too much for that page. It was unnecessary, and it slowed down page load times and things like that. I'll have to see if I can find the article, but if you don't know how to write plain JavaScript, then you're not going to be able to make that decision. You're not going to be able to make that enhancement or choice. And so you need to be able to learn the basics of whatever language that you're working on, and be comfortable developing in just that before you start bringing in frameworks, before you start bringing in AI. You need to understand what it is you're building, the code that you're writing and copy pasting. You need to be able to understand it and understand why it's working the way that it's working, why it's helpful to you, why it's solving the problem that you're trying to solve. So be very careful as a junior developer to understand what you're writing, and forcing yourself to write as much as you can from the ground up is going to make you a better developer, not just in the short term, but in the long term, because you'll learn to do things the right way. You'll learn why things are useful and when things are not useful, and you'll be able to have the skill set to be productive either way. Yeah, even if you pick up a framework like React, you have to understand the bare bones of it. The guy in charge of your hackathon project was a fresh grad who graduated and he just used AI. Wow. 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 The guy in charge of the project just graduated from boot camp, I guess, whatever it was, and he just used AI. You will go, you will go a certain distance with AI alone, but you won't know the why, and won't know how it all actually works. And when there's a problem or a bug or a necessary change, you're going to be stuck and you're going to be in trouble. So, yeah, wow, that's crazy. I asked him things about Next.js and why he used XYZ. He just didn't know how to answer. He thinks Next.js and React is the same. Ugh. You should join the Deep Pockets project and find out that they're not the same, because we're not using Next.js, but we are using React. That's crazy. Yeah. Again, you want to use the tools. You want to eventually get to a place where you can put those tools into your arsenal, because they will make you a better, faster, more competent developer. But you got to know the details. You've got to know the basics so that you know why you're using those tools, and why they're helping you. So that's crazy. And it's crazy that he would go to something like a hackathon. Would he just have Chat GPT up the whole time, or Claude, or something like that? That's crazy. Oh, welcome, Ian. Sorry I didn't see you slide in there. Ming's just filling up the chat, so I didn't see you. I didn't see you there. So welcome, Ian. Did I miss anybody else here? Let's see. We've got O'Neill, Ali, Ian. I think that's everybody. All right. Okay, cool. Well, let's just open it up for any questions that you guys might have, comments, things that you've seen that you want me to comment on, whatever. We've got about 30 minutes or so. Unless you don't have anything. If you don't have anything, we'll just cut it off early. How's that? So if you got any questions, throw them out there. While I'm waiting for that, just as a reminder, just as a reminder, we are live every Tuesday and Thursday for our LinkedIn lunch live stream. I'm getting better at saying that. It's starting to roll off the tongue a little bit, where we do go through different posts on LinkedIn, generally posts that are, I think, relevant to junior developers. And we talk about how those comments affect you, whether or not they make sense, my opinions on those, because I'm just so smart. No, it's just my opportunity to share from you what I've experienced and my opinions based off of my experience, and hopefully be helpful to you along the way. And and so we do that for about an hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then the Saturday live streams, we do still talk about the Deep Pockets project, but we're trying to move away to a little bit more general stuff. So I think that's hopefully going to be a little bit more helpful to more people who are interested in other things outside of being a part of the Deep Pockets project. Again, if you want to be a part of the Deep Pockets project and you haven't been yet, hit me up on the Discord server. Links in the description of this video, and let me know that you need access, and I'll make sure I get the information from you that I need. So yeah, that's where we're at with the project. You will probably see things in shorts or even long form video from the live streams, especially as we have these more focused discussions as separate videos or shorts. So I'm just letting you know that if you see that, please don't get angry. We're trying to get more palatable content out on and easier to access content out on the channel. Most people are not going to click on a 2-hour live stream. So we're just trying to make things a little bit easier for people without spending too much time generating a bunch of content, because I don't got the time. so there's that. Yeah, so let's take a look here. Ming says, how do I progress from a junior to a mid-level? I wish it was not as subjective as it is. Unfortunately, there's no like 1, 2, 3 step process. There's no checklist, really, in my opinion, that you can check off and say, now I'm a mid-level developer. For me, the difference between a junior level developer and a mid-level developer is independence. I think that's it. It's independence. When you reach a point where you can do the vast majority of a project, not that you're not learning new things, but when you can do the vast majority of a project without needing to pull in a mentor, without needing to ask other developer friends, without just copy pasting a bunch of stuff from Stack Overflow or from ChatGPT. Now, again, I'm not saying that you don't get help from those things. I still get help from those things because there's stuff that I don't know, right? That's a reality of development. You can't remember everything. But it's independence and it's quick problem solving. If you can independently figure out your problems, again, still using resources, but like you're not dependent on other devs helping you find the resources. You're not dependent on other devs giving you the answers. To me, that's the main sign of somebody who's gone from junior to mid-level. And again, I'm not saying that you never do those things. We have a help channel at my job specifically for that purpose. We have all senior level developers. So you're gonna run into stuff that you've not seen before that you have questions about, and even that you do some research and you can't find it and you just need to ask for help. That's a reality of all of development. But if the vast majority of your process is you independently finding the solutions and building the application. To me, that's the best sign, because there's three things that make you that you need to increase in your development journey, right? One is knowledge, experience, and then confidence, right? Knowledge, experience, and confidence. As you grow your knowledge, or I should say, you will grow your knowledge the more things that you experience. So the more you force yourself to try new projects, harder projects, more difficult concepts, the more you force yourself to learn new things. So your experience grows, your knowledge grows. Now, part of your experience growing is time. It's not just a variety of things. It's also doing lots of things, right? So it's going to take time. That's why you're not going to be a senior level dev in 1 year, right? You need to experience. The difference between a senior level developer and a junior level developer is the experience that they have. The knowledge that they have is different because of the things that they've experienced. So knowledge and experience go hand in hand, but also confidence goes hand in hand. The more things you experience and the more things you know, the more confident you will naturally be. And I'm not just talking about being confident when you're talking to people. I'm talking about being confident when you're actually writing the code. When you're given a project, when you're given a problem, as a junior developer, you don't even know where to start sometimes, right? But as a senior level developer, you at least have some experiences. You know some things to start with. You have maybe your own mental checklist of, here's the things that I want to figure out first, or here's where I'm going to start with this problem, because I have experience and knowledge that I've gained over time that a junior developer simply doesn't have. So that's the real difference, and that's what you should be pursuing. You should be pursuing experiencing things that are going to make you have to learn more, that are going to make you test your skills. Again, that's why, we just talked about clone projects. That's why clone projects are bad, in my opinion, because they don't really give you the opportunity to experience and increase your experience, increase your knowledge, and increase your true confidence. It gives you a false sense of those things, and so that's why I don't like them, because they're giving you a false sense of the three things that you need to really move on in your career and be successful. But those three things wrapped up together: knowledge, experience, and confidence. Those wrapped up together make you independent. Your goal as a developer should be to be able to be an independent dev. Your goal as a junior developer is to get to a point as quickly as possible where you are an independent developer. And my guess is that there are a lot of junior developers out there that really, because they've done a lot of self-learning, don't feel like they are mid-level developers because they haven't gotten a job, or because they haven't built XYZ project, or they haven't learned this language or that language, or this framework or that framework. But I think there's a lot of junior level developers out there who've been doing it for 2-3 years, maybe without a job. And really, you are a mid-level developer, because you do basically most of it on your own. Somebody can give you a project and you can run with it. And to me, that's the step that you want to get to. That to me is how you've taken that step really from junior developer to mid-level developer. I really don't want to stay at the junior level because most companies are looking for mid to senior. Many companies have quite high expectations after my last experience. Yes, they do. So again, this kind of goes back to what I've said before as far as your resume. This is why I would encourage people to build projects for somebody else. I think you should get paid for it. That's what we talked about last week. I think you should do everything you can to get paid for it so that it's a real freelance job. But even if you don't get paid for it, build a real project, build multiple real projects for real people or real companies that you run into contact with, and put them on your resume. Because the problem, here's the problem. if you really are a mid-level developer, which you might actually be, Ming, at this point, if you're really a mid-level developer but you don't have a job history, nobody's going to hire you as a mid-level developer. But if you can show a job history, a work history of working on real projects, you can talk about those projects, and you can show that it was done over time, especially if you can show that over a couple of years or 3 years, even, as much time as you can extend it back. If you can show that on your resume, then you're much more likely to be considered for a mid-level job if you meet all the other requirements, right? Whereas getting a junior developer job theoretically is more entry level, although it seems like they want more than that these days. I think companies don't remember what entry level means anymore. What I would love to see is companies getting back to an apprentice style of work, but I don't think that will ever happen. Let's see. Yeah, so at the end of the day, Ming, it's a good developer is somebody who can solve a problem with whatever tool he's given. One of the things that we talk about sometimes at our business is the technology shouldn't matter, because especially a senior level dev should be able to learn the technology that's required to solve the problem. At the end of the day, we're problem solvers and we have different tools for doing that. Now, I'm not saying that you have to learn everything. You can't learn everything. And you're going to some degree, at some point, you're going to pigeonhole yourself into a certain area of work. My area of work is mostly PHP backend, and then I have all three of the major frameworks front end, but I've never done anything with mobile. So I don't have any mobile experience when it comes to developing apps. That's something I'm actually looking into adding to my skill set, because I need to be able to at least have a knowledge of how that stuff works, even if I'm not the one actively developing it. So a senior dev is somebody who can take on a project and jump into a project regardless of the tool set that he's given. Because he'll learn what he needs to learn to do the job. Doesn't mean he's going to learn everything perfectly or become an expert at it, but he's going to learn what he needs to do to be able to progress in the project and make the project work. I think that's another key. So that, to me, that's the step from mid-level to senior level, right? So going from junior to mid is independence, and going from mid to senior is tech agnosticism, maybe. I don't know if that's a good way to say it or not, but there you go. Yeah, that's a good quote, Ian. An expert is a person who's made all the mistakes which can be made in a very narrow field. Niels Bohr. Yeah, I mean that's it. It's experience. You experience. That's why a senior level developer can look at an error or a bug and figure it out 10 times faster than a junior developer, because more than likely they've seen that bug before, or they've seen similar bugs before, or they've seen similar error messages before, and they have an idea of where to go look in the code base. I know we've done some projects, some live coding, and run into errors, and most of you probably would not have any idea where to go to find the answer to that error. But it was something that I had seen before, and I was able to figure it out fairly quickly. Because I'm just that good. No, but that's the difference. I've experienced those errors in the past, and so it bubbled back up into the front of my mind from the back of my mind, and I was able to fix the problem because of the experience that I had in making those mistakes in the past. So absolutely, it is true, Ian, that in larger companies there might be step process or checklist for that progression. Especially if they do a good job of creating a career progression, if they have multiple steps. A lot of times bigger companies will have lots of different titles for their pay scale more than anything, but there might be like requirements that you have to meet in order to move up into those different titles, like engineer 1, engineer 2, things like that. Smaller companies don't necessarily have that. And so it's going to be a little bit more subjective. Freelance, obviously, you can call yourself whatever you want. Freelance. I I wouldn't necessarily call myself a junior developer if I'm trying to get a job as a freelancer. So there's that. Ming says, what impressed me with my senior level developer friend is that he works in React Native, and I asked him something I'm stuck with service workers in Node. He's never seen it before, but he solved it for me. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. And again, you have to remember that a lot of programming is the same, from language to language, from framework to framework. The principles of programming are pervasive. There's three P's for you. The principles of programming are pervasive. They're the same in most languages. They're the same in most frameworks. The concepts are the same. So again, once you've had that knowledge and experience and confidence, you can look at something that you've never looked at before and fix it, figure it out. I'll give you a perfect example. So years ago, my actually my first real job after being freelance for 3 years, I got a job at a company, and I was mostly doing WordPress development. And then I moved into another part of the company that was doing PHP framework development. I think we were using Laravel 4 back then. That was the last time I used Laravel to this current job. But we used Laravel 4 and Laravel 5 on a couple of different projects back then. Anyway, it got to where, so long story short, most of the dev team was let go. I was the last developer that was there at the company outside of a particular group. So we had a couple of different development teams. I was the last one on the team to be let go. And while I was there by myself, we had a problem with an application that had been developed by somebody who was no longer with the company in even a different team. It was developed in .NET. And so I had never worked with .NET. I didn't really know anything about it. It was a problem with Google ad integration, which I also had not messed with. .NET is a compiled language, which I'd also never messed with. So I ended up doing a lot of research, but within about 3 days, I had figured out what the problem was, and I had created a fix for it. And I figured out how to deploy it. So I figured out the problem, figured out a fix, figured out how to deploy it, got it all pushed up, got it back up and running, and everything was great. They were able to use it for what they needed to use it for. I also had another issue pop up with another program, and both of these were written by the same developer, who was a system architect, I think, at the time when he was let go. And this problem was a little bit different. It was also a problem with Google integration. And I had already done the other one, so I was somewhat familiar with the code and how it was laid out and things like that at that point, but I never touched it again after that first project. It wasn't something that I maintained. But we had another issue come up, and it was something I wasn't sure I was going to be able to figure it out. And so the company hired the guy who had built it to come in and just try to figure out the problem, help us fix the problem, right? Because he's familiar with the code base, he wrote the project. So he and I sat in an office, and after about 2 hours, I found some documentation from the Google API docs. And the problem was basically that they had changed the column names for some of their data attributes. And we just needed to update those names so that it was pulling the information that we needed from Google's application. And I showed him this information, but he was on contract. He was making a lot of money per hour to come in here, and help us fix this problem that we were helpless on. And I showed him the fix for like 2 maybe 3 hours in, and he stayed there the entire day, acting like he was verifying what I was saying. And the reality was, I had the right fix. I had it. I had everything ready to go within a couple of hours. The next day, my boss asked me if we still needed his help, and I told her that we didn't, and I told her the situation, and we never used him again. Um, so that is the sign of a senior level developer, and some people are going to take advantage of that if they think that you don't know what you're doing. We spent over $1,000 for a single day's work, um, and he didn't even solve the problem. I solved the problem, and again, this is not me patting myself on the back. My point is, that you can learn new things. A senior level developer is going to be able to figure stuff out. Um, they may not be comfortable with it right away, but they have the tools and they have the experience to figure stuff out, even if it's something they've never seen before. And also, moral of the story is watch out for contractors, especially contractors who used to work for the company, because they might be looking to, get back at somebody. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know why I went into all that, but the point was, you can learn new things when you're a senior level developer. You can and should continue to learn new things, and you have the skill set to do it faster. So. Ian says, another quote, consulting, if you're not part of the solution, there's good money to be made in prolonging the problem. Absolutely. Like, he wasn't going to let me push a fix for it and test it. He wanted to look at, and that's the thing, like, he didn't even look at the documentation that I sent him. He just kept digging through the code base. And it's like, you're not going to see anything in the code base. Here's the error message we're getting. Here's what the documentation says. This is why you learn to read documentation, guys. All right. Yeah, I mean, it's just prolong the problem until they realize they don't need you, and then hope they still pay you. That's consulting. No, I'd much rather be a consultant that provides solutions. You definitely have a much higher return rate of customers when you do that. So definitely don't be that type of consultant. Be a consultant that's there with solutions. You may not know what the solution is right away, but be a consultant that provides solutions and not just prolongs the problem. That's excellent. All right, we're about a quarter till, just under a quarter till 12. I'm going to go ahead and sign off, guys. My voice is starting to leave me, I think. So I'm going to start pounding the water here. Thanks for jumping on with me today. I appreciate the conversation, and hopefully some of the stuff that we talked about is beneficial to you. Hopefully it'll give you some things to think about. It'll help you in your development journey as you try to move from junior to mid, or maybe you're trying to move from mid to senior, whatever it looks like. Hopefully this information is at least helpful, giving you another perspective, maybe. Oh, by the way, this T-shirt my brother bought me when I was working for him, mostly because I think he thought I was always slacking off. But incidentally, I was writing in PHP, which doesn't compile, so he didn't know that it didn't make sense, but it made me laugh. So there's that. Anyway, have a great day, guys. Thanks for jumping on with me. Don't forget, Tuesday, Thursday next week, we'll have our LinkedIn Lunch live stream, and then we'll be here next Saturday looking at Deep Pockets project and some topic that I haven't decided on yet. So, but hopefully something that'll be helpful to you. If you have suggestions for Saturday live stream topics, or if you have a suggestion for a better name for the live stream on Saturdays than Saturday live stream, post all that stuff in the Discord channel. You get the link. If you're not in there already, get the link from the description of this video. And I will talk to you all on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. See ya.